process, and it wasn't the play's pre-snap production wasn't happening fast enough for me in games. I mean, did it happen in practice? Yeah, but still not fast enough. And even still now, I can get better. So each day, each week is an opportunity for me to, really hone in this offense and just do my job. And that's what it really boils down to.
All right, fellas, you just heard Cam. Like many who have battled COVID, they have these lingering after effects of not feeling as sharp, a bit of brain fog, as it's been described to me. After hearing Cam there now, Stephen A., obviously he's played better the last 2 weeks, no turnovers. They won 2 in a row. They're third in the division. Do you think they're any closer to winning the AFC East?
I don't. Like I said, I've said the other day that I thought that their window was closed. It's not to say that they won't have. I predicted they'd go 4-3 over their last 7 games. If y'all remember correctly, I think that puts them at like 8-8, and that would be their record. And obviously, I anticipate that both the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills will have better records than that. And as a result, the Patriots would be on the outside looking in. I certainly can appreciate where Cam Newton is coming from. We don't know the effects, the lingering effects. We hear in a lot of situations what those lingering effects from COVID-19 entail. We understand that, and certainly we don't want to dismiss that. We understand how serious this is. It's not an excuse. It's the truth. It's real, and we have to respect Cam Newton and where he's coming from. And we wish him nothing but the best in terms of being on a path to continued health. He's an Adonis, a stud already, and so for him to be affected as dramatically as he was explaining he was affected, it makes it even more scary, because how many people are have the level of health, conditioning, the physique, and all of that stuff that comes with it that Cam Newton has. He's one of the elite athletes that we've seen in quite some time. So for him to have those lingering effects, it's not something that we can ignore or dismiss. Certainly we can't insult or criticize him over it. But in the end, I think that their window was there. And obviously that's not the case anymore. At 4-5, I just think it's a daunting task to expect them to overcome Buffalo and Miami in the AFC East. And I just think that their window for this season is closed. But I do believe that because of what he's explained, I think it explains that time when Bill Belichick benched him and went over and patted him on the leg and gave him some encouragement, which is not something that we see Bill Belichick do. Obviously, Bill Belichick has more knowledge about his situation than we would. So that really explains to me that Bill Belichick had a level of understanding about what was going on a deep level, similar to obviously what Cam Newton explained. And I think that you can expect to see Cam Newton getting a second chance back in New England next year when those players come back and you have better personnel to surround him with. But for this season, I just don't see it.
Your logic is sound. The odds are against them, but I don't think so far against them that they can't do it. I think the Patriots can win the AFC East. And by the way, Cam has not made a single excuse, not a single excuse this year. So when he gives you an explanation, when he's asked point blank about it, he's just being honest. And how do I know he's being honest? It was obvious to me from where I was sitting. Guys, I brought it up every time this topic's come up. Look at the fact pattern, right? Week 1. First of all, can they win the AFC East? They've beaten Miami by 2 scores. They came a play away from beating the Bills, but Cam got stripped, right? And they beat the Jets. Can they win the AFC East? They can clearly beat all the teams in the AFC East. They can. They came a play away from beating Buffalo, and they beat Miami. I mean, forget about the Jets already, right? But it was obvious to me, and I kept bringing it up. Here were the facts. They beat Miami week 1. A goal line stand by Seattle. Bobby Wagner, remember when I talked about the Seattle playmakers? Well, he's one. Is the only thing between them and a victory against Seattle, right? They then beat the Raiders by multiple scores, okay? They did these things. I'm not making it up. They have quality wins on the resume this season. The Patriots lost to the Chiefs because Cam had, everyone loses to the Chiefs, right? But because Cam had COVID, he couldn't play, and they still were competitive against the Chiefs, right? Practice facilities shut down. Guys couldn't practice. The defense lost guys, like star players, Hightower and these guys, before the season ever starts. Gilmore, everybody's hurt, not playing. They don't have any talent on offense. They were very competitive with the Chiefs without Cam Newton even. And a terrible call went against them. It was the wrong call, which changed the momentum of the game. Otherwise, who knows? And that's the Chiefs we're talking about. Now, Cam has COVID, right? He comes back from it. And they start to suffer bad losses. The Broncos, the Niners. Those were bad losses, and Cam looked bad. And so I openly speculated at the time, the man just had COVID. He doesn't look the same. Plus, if a team without a lot of talent, but with Bill Belichick, needs to practice a lot. They need to put in that time. They couldn't put in the time around the time of those games, and so they lost a couple bad games. And then they got right back on the stick, right? They beat the Jets, and then they beat Baltimore. These are quality Miami, Vegas, Baltimore. Those are quality wins, and 2 narrow losses to Seattle and Buffalo. Yes, they don't have a lot of margin for error. Yes, because of these circumstances, Stephen A., you're right, the odds are not with them. But can they win? Guys, coach and quarterback, that's what it's all about in the NFL. The greatest coach of all time is Bill Belichick. So now we're asking about the quarterback. The reason Cam didn't have a job was injury, not performance. Under Norv Turner, Cam Newton, former MVP with a Super Bowl appearance under his belt, was having his best statistical season. Then he got hurt. That's the last time we really saw him play. And then he looked good early this year, and then he got hurt with COVID again. That's why he looked bad. A healthy Cam Newton with Bill Belichick, yes, they can win the AFC East.
Well, see, here's my problem. And believe it or not, I'm going to bring Colin Kaepernick up in this situation. Obviously, although those situations are completely different from one another. A lot of times when people sit up there and say that Colin Kaepernick deserves a job in the NFL, my response is he deserves a tryout because he's been gone for 4 years. Aside from all of that stuff, when it comes down to the bare bones of just football, you've been gone for quite some time. So it doesn't entitle you to a job. It entitles you to the opportunity to prove that you're still worthy of that job. Yep. In the case of Cam Newton, you bring up injury. Of course he's been injured. Of course, last time we saw him in a full season, he played those 14 games in 2018 under Norv Turner, completed about 68% of his passes, got injured in that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers and was never the same, but was playing like an MVP candidate prior to that. But in a few years before that, that wasn't the case until Norv Turner arrived. And then after he got injured, when Norv Turner was there, he came back. All right, in 2019, only played 2 games, and then he played this year. So essentially, he's been gone for the better part of the previous 2 years. I understand injuries had something to do with that, but just because you got injured does not necessarily mean, Max, that you forget the residual impact that it could potentially have. To sit up there and say, well, the last time we saw him, this is what he was doing. And the only thing was injury. Well, injuries have ravaged a lot of careers. And potentially, it could have had, I'm not saying it has with him, but I'm saying potentially that injury that sat him down could have had a detrimental impact.
I agree. I agree it could have. So that was, and I totally agree with you about Kaepernick. It's not the job that's guaranteed, but the opportunity should be guaranteed if he hasn't broken any rules. Same thing with Cam. Correct. You don't guarantee anything, but okay, so what happened this season early? Did he look good or bad? Forget about the numbers. You can point to completion percentage. It was okay. It wasn't star.
He looked great against Seattle.
NFL.
He looked so-so against Miami and Vegas. He looked so-so against Miami and Vegas. Looked great against Seattle.
Doesn't try. Right, I agree. I agree, Stephen A., but Belichick uses the tools he has, and he knows